Hi, and good evening, everyone. My name is Adam, and tonight I just wanted to provide a quick presentation of a topic that I was planning to present at a different time, but we're just doing it a bit later today. And so today I'd like to talk about health anxiety and specifically how you can manage it. So when we're looking at health anxiety, certainly we're looking at many different options. And one of the things that we're concerned about is how can we protect our health given what we're feeling, what we're seeing in our body, and how can we take action to actually be successful with health change and to feel successful with some of the strategies we take to protect ourselves. So, health anxiety is actually really closely connected to how we feel, partly because when we feel sick or we notice a disease or disability in our body, we often feel like there's a stigmatizing mark. And that stigmatizing mark, it can make us feel kind of different, ashamed. We might feel invisible or unnoticed. We may even try to act like we're healthy or maybe healthier than we ought to be, given the circumstances. And in turn, this actually affects how we think about ourselves, how we participate in society, the types of activities we seek out. And so it certainly is something that we should take fairly seriously. Of course, our body is very important to us, and we increasingly sense changes in our body as we feel less sure about our health and our overall well being. And so, the more concerned we are about health, the more likely we are to notice changes, changes in symptoms, our physiology like heart rate. And in so doing, we actually come to act more quickly, more, vigorously to these changes. And we can actually experience anxiety that causes physical symptoms, which in turn we become anxious about. Without going into too much details about this, we generally have some sort of physical cause that either happened in the past or is currently happening, and we start to develop really robust thinking around this. We kind of consider it like a critical incident. So we activate some of our schemas, which are just sets of beliefs, and in so doing, we kind of begin to have some automatic negative thinking around different parts of our body. We may selectively attend to parts of the body, noticing changes. We may ruminate or think about it quite a lot. We may actually focus on ourselves and insist that we're different than others. And so in so doing, we, don't quite believe what we're seeing is normal when it may in fact be a bit more normal than we think it is. And we also generate some kind of catastrophic beliefs and different types of thinking errors around it. Overall, this can also lead to changes in how we feel day to day. When we're talking about anxiety, depression, anger, all of these emotions can actually lead to changes in everything from heart rate to whether we feel, kind of relaxed and at ease, or if we feel stressed. And in so doing, it may change how we feel about our overall health. So it's important to consider that, when we're anxious about our health, there likely is something that made us feel vulnerable in the first place. It's quite reasonable that we would worry about our health. It says a lot of positive things about us. But the question that we should always ask is, what made us vulnerable? So what are we sensitive to? And in the more recent past, what triggers really trigger us day to day? Put together, those will help us to define what the problem is. And it may not always be the exact problem we talk about or think about when it comes to health. So it may not be our diabetes. It may not be, different issues with chronic pain or whatever health concern that we put in the forefront may not be the full extent of the problem once we think about it in this way. Um, once we do conceptualize what exactly the problem is, then we can usually easily think of things that are keeping the problem going in our life. These are things that, you know, probably could control the problem if they were done, but we're not doing them, or vice versa, things that are causing the problem that we're not really ready to take action on. And there's also kind of another component to this, which is positive things that are going on in our life. So thinking about it from that perspective, if we start to think about some good things that counteract the problem, we may actually find that this problem isn't as daunting as we like to think, or that we're, conceptualizing it as. And so overall, when it comes to health anxiety, the best place to start is, to start with the core work of working on anxiety. That's, asking things like, what made me vulnerable in the first place? Like I kind of mentioned a bit before. Some of the core beliefs about yourself, others, in the world, as well as rules that you live by, in terms of, after you list all of these rules, without judgment, you can come back after and say, was that helpful or not helpful? Um, Talking about the current problem, in addition to what triggered the problem, can lead you to think about what helps you cope with it and whether that's helpful or not helpful. And then what's really maintaining the problem in your life. So, kind of what we discussed earlier, after you list all of the things that maintain it, you can go through and say, what are the sensations that are maintaining it? Is it that I feel fatigued? Is it that I feel powerless? Is it that I feel, sick or nauseated? Well, what are the things that really hold me back? What are the thoughts? What are the behaviors in response to those thoughts? And in addition, what are some of the, different environmental cues and attributes? How is our environment playing into this? So overall, some of the thinking patterns that we begin to think about when it comes to health anxiety is symptoms. When our heart is racing, our chest is tight, are we misinterpreting those symptoms? Do we have increased anxiety? And in so doing, are we noticing some changes that we, maybe are really highlighting in our life? We're, blowing them out of proportion, if you will. Um, it's really good that people have catastrophic misinterpretation, because if you think about it, it helps protect us from fairly serious and severe health outcomes. For example, if you're worried about having a heart attack, this type of catastrophization helps us to act early and to seek medical help, even in cases where we may not have a heart attack. Related to this, there's also the concept of scanning or hypervigilance, where we worry about an illness so much that we continue to scan and check, and in so doing, we notice more of the illness within ourselves. So we seem to confirm the illness simply by scanning and checking. And this hypervigilance is very common among people who have been through a lot or worry a lot about a negative outcome. One of the easiest things to do in this situation of, being hyper vigilant, is to step back and simply, look at what exactly am I looking for, and is this helpful? Does it seem like this is an accurate sensation or a helpful way of looking at my body? Or are there different things that I can look at and focus on that seem to be a bit more accurate? So overall, there's a lot of things that we can, kind of take charge of in our life when it comes to health anxiety. But I wanted to share one of the resources here. So I'm just going to quickly pull up our company website here. These are just meant to be really short talks. This is actually my third trying this tonight. The first time the talk was muted. The second time my puppy came in and was barking at the door, and it was quite challenging. And the third time, certainly I'm hoping I'll just finish this within about 20 minutes. But if you go to the health resources page on our website and you scroll down to some of the patient forms, there is actually this emotion log, and this is quite an effective way that people can actually take action around their health. In this case, list one of the health events that is really troubling and take some time with it and really go through some of the emotions. Try to, looking at this, ask yourself with each emotion, when I sense this event, how do I feel? And bring this to, after filling out that very top part, you can bring this typically to a health provider who is trained in coaching you through different emotions and feelings, and they can help you to work through some of the thoughts that you're having. They can help you to clarify some of the emotions, double check with you whether you're feeling this way. And in so doing, they can actually fill out some of these other columns. So if it's helpful, I'd love to connect around this. I wouldn't recommend this specific worksheet to be done entirely alone. It's always nice to kind of bring this to a professional and then you can kind of work through it on the other end. But that being said, there's so much that you can do to help to kind of optimize your thinking in this area. So, in the face of a difficult situation, you can feel more resilient and at ease. Hopefully that's helpful. And for tonight's episode of Nurse Cafe, I'm Adam Henley, and I'll look forward to the next episode with you in about a week's time.